Okay, this is the final of the knowledge management e-learning modules, email and file distribution. Remember when you're completed to close this window, navigate to the assessments and take the assessment for email and file distribution. Here's a standard email interface window. This one's from Microsoft Outlook. The subject of this email is all about signature blocks. So in the name, in the subject itself, I'm careful to put enough information that the user, the receiver, will understand what they're looking at before they have to open this email. A lot of people have pop-up notifiers. It lets them know quickly if they need to go and do something in a prompt manner. It's also carefully worded such that it doesn't get filtered by spam filters, and it has a little bit of that file naming convention in that it allows you to search for it at a future date. Rather than try to walk through every single instance of every circumstance, let me just give you some email best practices. There's quite a bit to know and learn about email, and so we're just going to hit the high points. This is not meant to be a comprehensive course in email, just to give the user a familiarity and understanding of what is a good practice, what they should do, what they should be thinking about. Again, we talked a little bit about the subject, but give it a subject name that doesn't get filtered by spam filters, and it aids the user in understanding if they need to open it right then, or they can wait a little while. When you're sending files, there's a real tendency to attach every file you have to email. It's not necessarily the best way to do it. Be conscious of what your policies are for your mail server and distribute large files, those that are greater than 10 megabytes. Some places have 5 megabytes, some have 15, but generally speaking 10 megabytes. Distribute those in another manner, such as a file transfer protocol server, not via email. All that does is consumes available bandwidth. Use standard signature blocks so everybody knows what's in a signature block and the appropriate information is contained, so you have to retype it. When you're sending email, there's a tendency to send it to everybody in the world because you can. That doesn't necessarily mean you should. Send it to specifically who needs to receive it and carbon copy those who ought to have some awareness. When you use blind carbon copy, be very careful. And then when you're going to be out of the office for a little while, ensure that you use your out of office responder to automatically address incoming emails so people know what to expect or when to expect information or a response back from you. These are real simple, not meant to be an end-all be-all list. They should help you with some of the emailing practices and procedures you should try. Okay, with regard to file distribution, similar to email best practices, these are some file distribution best practices. By no means is this an end-all list. When you're distributing files, figure out who you need to send it to. And if you need to update somebody, if you've modified a file, if you've created a new file, if you've moved a file, just know who your audience is for that file. If it's just you, very simple. If it's other members of your company or the wider world, know who it is. If you're going to notify them via email or you're going to send it to them via email, again, precisely address it to who needs to see it, carbon copy those that ought to have an awareness of it, and ensure you describe it in the subject line in such a way that they know, oh, I need to open that and take a look, or, they're just sending this to me for awareness. We've already discussed sending large files. Just be conscious of the file size and use the appropriate technology to send them. Take advantage of automation features such as track changes in Microsoft Word to allow greater collaboration amongst numerous people. We've already talked about file names. Continue to use standard file names. And when you send emails distributing files, try to group the same type of files together. Don't send human resources and a software installer together. It's a little tough 6 months from now when you're looking for that email that so-and-so sent that had the software installer. And then again, looking for that same email 6 months from now that had the human resources policy. Try to separate it to make it much easier in the future to find what it is that you received in the past. It's real simple, real methodical, a lot of common sense. Just take the time to think it through. Congratulations, you've completed all the e-learning modules. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of the various components of knowledge management, a definition of knowledge management, some good file naming procedures, some file organization procedures, what metadata, meta tagging are, how to use email, and lastly, file distribution. At this point, take the assessment, wrap up what you're doing, and then go on to the end of course assessment.